Hello there and welcome back to War Thunder, to Dub Talks number episode 59 already. Yes, it's sooner than expected, and well, I had a brilliant topic idea that I wanted to bring to your attention, followed up by maybe a bit talking about helicopters in an abusive gameplay, and then at the end I also want to answer your questions. Now, the thing that I have in mind is that I make Duck Talks a more regular thing. Now it's summer, a lot of people are out there. You don't get the huge views on your average video, I get that. And it's also kind of a relaxing area for me after Gamescom. In before the patch drops, I'm waiting for it because all the new interesting stuff comes out. So the first topic that I want to talk about is ranked battles. Now, the idea comes from the competitive standpoint of random teams, and I recently got back into World of Warships in terms of, grinding a line. I grind for the British battleship line, but the actual thing is I do it with a friend. And, well, I witnessed that, certain flags give you a lot of advantage. You always are short on silver and you just want to get more income, and in both silver and also experience, of course, for grinding. So the other thing is that you get better upgrades faster to be more competitive and then enjoy the grind more, or being quicker in a more competitive status. So what I want to say is this: I want another game mode in War Thunder that is limited in terms of time. So you have a season that lasts maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and then 4 weeks break, and then again 1 or 2 weeks where you can climb up the ladder to the top rank. And once you finish grinding for a rank, you get a lot of goodies, and they are what is the interesting part for me, what I would really love playing War Thunder for. However, the bigger picture is there are possibly 4 different kind of interested groups that want to play this. First of all, the competitive group that is, of course, eager to get the prestige. Yeah, I was first, a good title or something like with the duels, but I want it in a bigger team. How exactly it turns out, we will talk about later. The second one is people who are looking for an alternative gameplay feeling, an alternative setup to what they're used to from arcade or realistic or simulator, not in terms of game mechanics, but rather how it plays out. Maybe a different map layout where the spawns are different, different objectives, and so on, different winning conditions, and you need to win a game to climb up the ladder, and you need to reach at least, 500 score points to get part of it. However it precisely turns out, we'll have to see. The third group might be actually Gaijin themselves, to field test a predecessor to any sort of really esports type. Don't laugh at it. This is what actually is another reason that is highly important, because it will keep the game alive for much longer than for its natural expiring date, let's put it that way. And the fourth group of people are actually the ones like me that are playing for the prizes, for the goodies that you get when you reach another rank, or every 4th rank there is now then how do I say it, where you just receive prizes such as Silverline boosters, research point boosters, a small amount of golden eagles, discount coupons for premium time itself, or discounts for premium vehicles, or something else, a reduction for a certain package, and or special skins. There are so many things that you can think about, and they would keep those people interested in reaching the next rank. And I personally, in World of Warships, to go back to this topic, I know that I do not really be able to reach the next rank because it is bound to play tier 10 ships, and I just have one, and that is the German tier 10 battleship, and that's not very well suited for ranked battle itself because, again, it's another environment. Now, how does Gaijin profit from that? Well, as I just said, I have not a vessel that is very well suited for it, and very often people might find it interesting, or just find it, or feel like getting pressured to now get immediately a certain tank or plane to fill, let's say, their lineup for that particular battle. And so Gaijin will sell more premium vessels, let's say at rank 3 and 4, and that is one way how Gaijin gets money or profits from it. After all, the next thing is Gaijin can also go into a modus where they rent a certain complete lineup, a pre-made lineup, or they just give rents out to certain vessels that cost, like, I don't know, 50,000 silver lines to rent for, let's say, a week. And the prices at the end will make up for it, but it's an investment. And so people might think about, okay, I will play this now for longer, let's invest in a premium account. And again, that's golden needles that they probably most likely purchased, and that again is a profit for a Gaijin. So I think everybody will profit to a certain degree. We have a different game mode, we will have diversity, we have a preparation for esports that keep the game longer alive, and then also Gaijin will profit from all of those things and a large interested portion of the player base. Now, those who are not playing it, they still can populate, the normal battles, and you will not lose anything on your normal, daily enjoyment of the game. Now, the other thing is we will come across certain problems. First of all, what are the big prizes? Are they really rare special vehicles? Are they, again, skins or titles for the top rank? That is the question, what is actually the driving force to play it for a lot of players? Again, we have 4 different groups of people that might be interested in playing it. Now, the one thing that you always have to look out for is people try to abuse any system that they come across for their own profit, for trolling people, or just because they can. And I think this is just the internet, but we had such a problem in the very first E100 tournament, from which I gained my E100, and that was really breathtakingly badly implemented. There were cheats, there were hacks, there were actions done by Gaijin weeks later where then people were banned, and Gaijin released then a list with people's account that were banned, and I found some names that I met in battle where I just really felt like something was going on. We won the battle, and then suddenly we all glitched out that survived, and we drowned in the river, and our tickets just vanished, despite the last enemy being dead and we actually having their capture point. That was just one incident. So I think this is very interesting to note. Then this must not be in such a game, because it ruins the reputation of the game further. And furthermore, people that might just come back to it, which is another goal of mine, to War Thunder, to populate the servers, that they just give it a chance and then immediately get repelled, because they again will face the very same frustration level, or they just will meet new issues and they're just like, okay, I don't have to do this to myself. At the end, the game must be fun to encourage people to stick with it, and to actually, that should be the reason why they spend money on. Then also it might just again reveal certain broken mechanics. Currently, ATGMs are broken. It might get fixed with the introduction of helicopters, damage models, and all those things that we just come across for years. Then the question is there too much diversity in War Thunder? Because what is here, how do you set it up? Is it in terms of tanked RB? Is it in terms of air RB? Do you have to play in 3 different tournaments to reach out and have a chance to actually reach the top ranks, so ships, planes, and tanks? So when we think about it, you have to make probably a game mode that includes not just tanks but also half tracks, SPA, armored cars, and with that also something that every single vessel can fight against. And if there are SPA, you need planes, mostly fighters that attack attackers, ground attackers, bombers, medium bombers, light bombers, heavy bombers probably as well. And then what about ships? Light cruisers, DDs, and patrol boats, how do they interact? Mixed to that mix also helicopters, and you have really a situation that is strange. So maybe something has to be excluded. And again, maybe this is not available for the majority of people, because let's face it, you have the wrong nation that doesn't fit here the meta. Let's say you need a lot of cash, but you have Japan or Italy. Good luck with that. And then the diversity in their nation's rank, especially Italy for the moment, is rather thin. And I think that is something that you need to take into account. And I think the 3 most competitive nations are Germany, the Americans, and of course Russia or the Soviet Union. While there is a place for Japan and also France and Britain, they are more in special roles when you think about really competitive gameplay. That depends on which rank, which battle rating, which kind of lineup. If you take, for instance, 6.7, not every single nation is equally chosen. Do you include premium tanks? Oh my god, then it's really through the roof, isn't it? Then we come to the next thing. As I said, it's not accessible for new players because you need to have all those vehicles unlocked, and in your rank you need to be able to build yourself an own lineup, and maybe then the grand costs might be too much. Again, this is really urgently depending on balance, on leveling it out, so at the end everybody profits, Gaijin but also the players. So, and this might be just a bit too much. I think it should be there, and Gaijin should throw out a lot of boosters, unique boosters like 50% bonus for the entire team, and in terms of RP and Silver Lions, huge boosters that do not expire or give you 2 weeks of playing them and not just run out in 3 days. And the grind in War Thunder is really insane, and maybe this flood of boosters or discounts will also result in a flood of people rejoining the grind. I see it in my comment section. Multiple people say, I stick to rank 3 and 4 because the grind at higher battle ratings, especially the stock grind, is insane. And I agree to this. If you have done a stock grind, getting the parts and fire prevention equipment, especially on tanks, is just really annoying. And to pay for each and every single upgrade, you just run through tens and thousands of Silver Lions and Golden Eagles. So where is now the difference to clan battles or any sort of tournament? Well, it's kind of obvious. To participate in a clan battle, you have to train with your clanmates, and you have to be in a clan in the first place, per definition. So that means you play with the various different people over and over again. You have to be there at certain times, and many more things are there. You need to actually listen to a boss overall, as far as I can tell, that gives out the orders. Okay, you're dead, we need an SPA. You're dead, we need a plane support, or something like this. The other thing is, when you look at tournaments, it's mostly a 1 versus 1 or a 2 versus 2. I also have seen a 4 versus 4, and I also participated in them. But you need to win, and once you lose, you get excluded, like in a deathmatch. And at the end, there is just one winner. What I talk about here is a ranked battle system. So it depends on your battle performance. It depends on if you win, you are part of a random team, and that just is a whole different playground. So what we need are hopefully large maps with large groups, and then you have more diversity, and you just do not have 1 or 2 planes, and maybe you make it along the line like you have 5 guaranteed respawns, and you have a lineup of at maximum 7 various different vehicles, planes and tanks alike, in a various different ratio. You just have to, you must be using vehicles of rank 2 and 3, let's just say that for the sake of it, and maximum battle rating of 4.7, let's put it that way. And so you can make your own lineups, but you have the strength and weaknesses of the various different nations. We will then see how it turns out in a competitive gameplay. And if you win in this battle, then you win a point, and each rank needs, let's say, 3 points. If you lose the battle, you might lose a point, but certain ranks are irrevocable, so you might not then step too further back, and so that is just something to think about. So in multiple and dozens of battles, the only part that remains constant is your performance and your impact on the outcome of the game. So at the end, it is you that determines how high you get. And while the influence of the team and teamwork is strong, if you're a really bad player, you're not contributing to the success of your team. If you're a really good player, you rack up a lot of kills and go for the objectives, then you're helping overall your team to win. If you help a teammate, that teammate then can help you and can go on to fulfill objectives and win games. And that sounds a little bit like, you know, your average random battle, and there is a similarity to it. Now again, what I want to say is it's random teams with no squads in them that obviously then play better together over voice comm or whatnot. And so that would be also very interesting for streaming or for making videos about new guidelines. Everybody can profit from it, and again, it might bring more diversity to War Thunder. And with the way that I intended, that it is like also giving you silver lines, maybe at an increased rate with like an automatic 15-20% bonus to it. You also might have an increased research that further enhances your will to play it, but it's like up for 1 or 2 weeks, and then like 4, 5, 6 weeks break, and then a new season starts. So that is the very rough idea. Now in the comment section, please state if you like that idea, if it's complete rubbish, and also state the downsides to my ideas, or what fixes you would bring to this idea, or improvements rather. So those are just thoughts that just came randomly across my mind, because to be honest, I play ranked battles in World of Warships because it's a bit different, and furthermore I get a lot of good prizes, and I at some point will stop playing it if the teams get just too insane. But I still will have the prizes from it, and that keeps me coming back to the majority of ranked seasons in World of Warships, a game that otherwise I just play from time to time with a friend of mine. And again, the prizes are also something that keep me further playing the game, like containers, flags, modules, premium time, golden doubloons, and so forth. So, you know, you then have to spend it, you then have to use it in battle, and then when you see, hey, I got increased income here and there, how can I further increase it? Then, well, maybe spend the doublons on a premium day and profit from it. Use the premium time that you actually get with it, and maybe get again a bit back into the game. So that's the kind of right investment that otherwise would result in the player not playing at all or spending nothing at all at the end. So I think Gaijin should think about this. It would be a good alternative. Talking about alternatives, let's talk about helicopters for a moment. So the announcement of helicopters were the big thing for Gaijin at the 2018 Gamescom, and I have to say, was there really anybody that was surprised? I mean, it was leaked. We saw it in the first April Fool's event 2.5 years ago, and or 1.5 years ago to be more precise. And I think that's just something that you should think about. The majority of things that we saw within War Thunder that were tested in a Pro Fools event actually then came to be. With the exception of the walkers and the dummy tanks and Godzilla and hopefully also submarines, because they would be very, very boring for ships in the current status. Obviously, ships are subject to change, but back to helicopters. Now, with every single system that came to be, we have to see how it will get buffed and what it affects the gameplay with. So currently they will be countered by SBA, even by radar SBA, but then the question is, will they outrange them? Is there any sort of way that people can abuse the system? Because this is the first thing that always come to my mind. How can people abuse the system to ruin my day? Because this is always what happened, and in every single way that we saw as a sort of introduction. New premium tank with ATGM. Guess what really works very well at the moment? ATGMs. Currently they don't work. Guess what probably will get fixed when helicopters drop? ATGMs. But then there is the question, how does the SBA to the helicopter, how do the balance work? If there has anyone the upper hand, is it really down to skill, or are the game mechanics predetermining how the outcome of such a battle is? Then the next thing is, can the helicopter look for cover, and what the helicopters really can do when they're fighting jets and SBA and tanks alike? How is the time level there? Because this is the very first time, okay, that you have no alternative in terms of going into air realistic battles. And that is just the key point of the argumentation. You have to go into a tank. You have to then acquire enough points to then spawn a helicopter, and then you have to play the helicopter to research another helicopter. Okay, so that's the only way I can research them, if I understood it correctly. Now that requires a lot of battles, that requires you to die in the first place in order to research the helicopters, and I see a lot of spamming of potato trucks, especially on the Russian side, or M22 or Locust tanks to get spammed out, rush the caps, cap it, especially at higher tiers, then just bail out and get into a helicopter and ATGMing the hell out of the main battle tanks. And maybe it will get that evil that a lot of people just try to rush in with SBA to harvest the potato trucks and or the M22s, and also then shoot down the helicopters or planes that are in the air, to then bail out and then feast with their helicopters on it. So I expect madness, but what we also need for them to get a proper amount of kills to have the chance to get research points in the first place are larger teams, and that is a good thing if Gaijin would implement that, or if they would rework the matchmaker to a certain degree. Because in a 6 versus 6 or a 8 versus 8, how big are the chances that you get a few kills with your helicopter in the first place? Not very high. Do you really have fun, flying to the target zone, being there for 3 minutes, and then the game is off, or like the last enemy hides? And that just is another reason that we have to talk about. how much does it make sense? Okay, and also if there is any way to bring this to the possibility of RRB. Now I knew that I talked about this in a similar way in another video, but not from the perspective of abusing the system. So people are interested, or there are many trolls in the game that are very interested in ruining another person's day by abusing the game system. And so I see many ways how helicopters just then land somewhere out of the reach of the tanks, much like planes, just land somewhere between trees and are not there to be found. There are, if you look at the map from the Middle East, there is a big ridgeline of well, mountains, and you land behind it, nobody can shoot you, no SBA, no tank, and good luck to be found by a plane. Well, that then depends on the settings and if they can make you out, and also if you have time to go back to the heliport and then refill your ATGMs, and how often you actually can capture a point. So that's the interesting part. And also the balance between the nations, that's also something interesting. If you think about how many helicopters did Japan have, how many various different helicopters did Italy have. Obviously there are countries that have more of them, like of course the USSR and America, maybe Germany. I do not know too much about helicopters, but I know that there were various different variants out there with various different weapon layouts. The question is if Gaijin puts them some sort in a folder with various different upgrades, like with the Concourse rocket on the EMP-1, or if they make various different helicopters that are very similar, like the Tiger II Henschel versus the Tiger II with the Porsche turret, just to give you some analogies. And all in all, I think this is a very interesting topic to think about, and I'm highly interested in seeing how it will actually turn out. So I think now that's the end of this, and I actually think it's now time for the questions. So the first few questions come from Oberleutnant Dogger. First one: do you approve that all high pen shells do damage to extremely angled side of tanks? I mean, if you even angle T-64 for 1 or 2 degrees, XM1 at 1,500 meters could penetrate your side armor. In my opinion, it is highly unrealistic, but I am not a ballistic expert or so. Do you think it is alright about that? Well, first of all, you're talking about APFSDS, and they are known for their normalization capabilities. They have very high penetration values, very high muzzle velocity, and they just made, well, actually steel armor irrelevant, or nearly irrelevant, and 1 or 2 angling, that's not correct. From 60, 70 to 75 degrees of angles, they still can penetrate with a certain degree of reliability, but above that they still can also bounce at higher angles. So like especially from 80 to obviously 90 degrees, they then just bounce, even at thin plates, steel plates, like on the Leopard 2K plate that is very well known to bounce things. The other mechanic with side armor in particular, which is always steel armor, is a mechanic like overmatch. So if the shell has a caliber, a full-sized APHE or AP shot, still can overmatch side armor if it is very thin, like just a third of the shell diameter in World of Tanks, if I'm correct. And in War Thunder there are various different grades of overmatch mechanics. Semi-overmatch, where you roll the dice if it is an overmatch or not, and so forth. Very prominent is the 30% interaction rule that allows nowadays the 75mm shells from British tanks, German tanks, and Japanese tanks to not bounce on the 60 degrees angled 45mm upper frontal plate on a T-34, which previously was very prominent to even bounce Jagdtiger shells or Hesh shells from Conquerors. So surprisingly, that is more realistic than unrealistic, as we will see it. Second, radar IA is really unbalanced right now for prop planes. What could possibly fix this? Well, to be honest, I don't really feel sorry for planes because they still ruin your day if there is no SPA or that SPA is not paying attention. And it is probably the best implementation of the radar option that there is. Otherwise, I guess a Coelian is better at anti-aircraft purposes than a Gepard because it has some armor and it has more anti-tank capabilities. Then, next question. Third, ground resistance for heavy tanks and medium tanks are absurd. I really can't get how IS-6 moves faster than T-54, but nerfing heavy tank ground resistance would kill tanks like the Maus E-100, IS-4 and such tanks. How could you prevent 6.7, 7.7 heavies being MBTs of their tier? Oh, that's a very strange question. But I think I can answer you it in that way that the ground resistance, the ground pressure is a hidden statistics. It depends on how much track surface that there is compared to the weight of the tank and also how the layout is. And I agree that certain tanks really feel better than their horsepower to ton ratio would imply. So then, next question comes from Georgi Vanev. Any idea when the new patch is coming? Also, are Gaijin gonna put the T55A at 8.3 and then put the new premium T55AM on the place of the A version at 8.7? First of all, I have no idea when the patch is dropping. I expect in the next few weeks because you have the very same ritual as usual. You get def blocks, def blocks, def blocks, then the dev server is opening up once or twice, sometimes even 3 times, and then a week later or so we get either on a Tuesday or a Thursday the patch drop. So I have no idea when it is. I do not get previously informed, maybe 1 or 2 days before that by Gaijin, if at all, and then that's about it. About the T55A, I have no idea what Gaijin is fiddling around with it or the AM version. Then, Teshnoflo, question, what do you think of World of Tanks in general? And can you, when you speak German, please let the Bavarian accent slip away? I always have the feeling I listen to Seehofer or Söder. By the way, that's a comment from me, those are true previous or still their Minister Presidents of Bavaria. So, first of all, about World of Tanks in general. I think the game has potential, and with their new 1.0 version, they really kicked in the door in terms of the graphics department. I never thought that I would see this change in World of Tanks, but it shows that the game is highly popular, that it also needed the change, and that it will exist for years to come. It was a necessary big update, and it will keep World of Tanks alive. Furthermore, it just shows that Gaijin never took the chances of being the World of Tanks killer that there is, because World of Tanks still houses more players, much more players than War Thunder, which is again a chance that was thrown out of the window by Gaijin. World of Tanks has some interesting tanks. I was on my way to the Waffenträger of E100 when then they cancelled it, and then after that I think the tanks in War Thunder caught more of my attention. They just felt more satisfying and less frustrating. Yes, you might not believe it, but I think the pay to win factor in World of Tanks is given at any tier, and that you have just a limited amount of garage slots, that you have to sell tanks, that you never can step back to an old tank and play it and then switch the crew like you can in War Thunder. I think War Thunder is overall the better system. I am actually a bit hating on World of Tanks having me frustrated that much. I think World of Tanks was too much money grab. at any tier, for any tank, and especially at the lower tiers, you have to play an obscene amount of battles with a premium account to actually get the maximum out of a tank, to retrain the crew to a 100% every single time, and it was just a never-ending holocaust for my nerves. I'm not exaggerating. So I think World of Tanks might be a good game that some people enjoy. I never did, and regardless how frustrating War Thunder might be at times, it is always better. And maybe I was so burned by World of Tanks that Gaijin has to really come up with some magic stuff to frustrate me that much. Then about my Bavarian accent when I speak German, well, you take it or you leave it. This is something that I never will throw out. It's what I grew up with, it's what I'm proud of, and when I speak German, there is always a Bavarian accent, and I will not go out of my way to change that. That is part of my identity, that is part of my character, and yeah, no chance, baby, no chance at all. So then, Christian Winkler asks, question, what do you think about the TAM? All of us RGs will spam that thing so bad. I know that it has a version of the L7, but I don't care because I want it so bad. I hope you make a video with a little bit of history, plus the Begleitpanzer 57, which has that same chassis, and some gameplay. So first of all, there might be some misconceptions about me hating on the L7. First of all, the TAM will have APFSDS, and that makes a huge difference. I don't think it has a stabilizer, and again, it looks like you put a Leopard turret on a Begleitpanzer 57 chassis, and then that's it. Give it hash heat and also APFSDS. I doubt that it will have a battle rating of 7.7, and I think it will end up at a battle rating of the Begleitpanzer 57, which is completely over-tiered in my opinion. So again, it's a good thing that it will come to the German tech tree, that it will fill necessary, that it will fill the gap of a light tank, but how actually useful it will be in contrast to, let's say, an Object 906, that has to be seen. We'll have to see how high the rate of fire is, the defensive capabilities, if it will have a stabilizer, how hard the stock grind is, if it will be a premium or a normal tech tree vessel. All those things have to be seen. And yeah, I think it's a good addition from what I could find out, but the actual question at which BR it will sit and how it actually will turn out and will play out, that has to be seen, that still has to be answered. Be assured that I make 1 or 2 videos about it. So then, very interesting questions from Adam Sakumandi. Question, do you have Netflix? If you do or don't, what shows do you enjoy and what kind of movies do you as well? Oh boy, that I think that is worth being answered in a separate question. Yes, my girlfriend has access to Netflix, and we love to watch certain shows together. For instance, I showed her Breaking Bad. Now we really enjoy Better Call Saul. There are multiple other series and multiple other movies. I think overall, even aside from Netflix, I really enjoyed Stargate SG-1. That was really cool. I also enjoyed Stargate Atlantis. Then furthermore, well, I actually enjoy Star Wars, except the very new movies, because they were complete trash and they made me really angry, despite not being an absolute tryhard fan of the Star Wars saga. Star Trek as well is a series that I like. I'm a bit of a Trekkie, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. They were really cool. Also, all the movies, I really enjoyed them. Then also, what is something that I grew up with in terms of movies is the Bud Spencer and Terence Hill movies. I grew up with them. So some of my humor and my personality in particular comes from watching those movies, which sometimes might not be for the best. How to solve certain problems. Okay, jokes aside, there are so many movies and shows that I really enjoy. I think I might have to make an entire video out of that at some point. So I really enjoy movies, but one thing that I have to point out, Netflix is a good alternative, but you will not find everything on it. But I have to say, I don't watch TV anymore. It's very rarely that I actually watch TV because, at least in Germany, for my taste, there is just coming so much trash. Yeah, another series that I really like is Doctor House, and I really loved watching it multiple times. Also, I showed all the DVDs to my girlfriend, and we loved watching it because, you know, Doctor House is Doctor House. I'm not against new series or anything, but I think those are my all-time favorites. And what I do mostly watch nowadays is just YouTube. You know, I'm watching YouTube as much as I produce it myself, and I love to watch Jingles, Flamu, and multiple other smaller and bigger YouTubers, and with various different contexts, not just about gaming, but about cars, about so many things. Yeah, by the way, I love watching the old Top Gear, not the very old Top Gear, but, you know, with Richard Hammond, and also, of course, Jeremy Clarkson, and also Captain Slow. So I think this is a never-ending story, and this is just a question that will come to no end. By Haki Hidayat asks how to aim with SBA that don't have radar, and how to fight with stock tanks in high tiers, because I don't have money to buy parts, fire prevention equipment, shells, etc, etc. First of all, I made a video about SPA that included an SPA with radar. However, what I talked about was not just applying to SPA with radar, and if you want to train with radar, play arcade with the Wirbelwind, with the Ostwind, Corellian. There are pretty good tanks to train it, but they're very expensive with their repair costs. So very often I select when to shoot and not to shoot, when to alert the enemy plane that there is an SPA at all in the first place, because if they make their attack run, they're very oblivious to the incoming tracers, and you can make relatively easy snipes. The next thing is also positioning and so forth. Then how to fight with stock tanks in high tiers. If you haven't noticed, it's a theme throughout most nations. For most tanks at higher tiers, it's designed to really frustrate the hell out of you, either to break you, to make you give up, or to break you in the way that you just spend money on gold needles to purchase it. And if you're not willing to do that, well, bad luck for you. Don't hate on me for this. This is how Gaijin designs their game. This is how they get money. Kevin Nator 199 asks, can we get artillery tanks only? Well, first of all, there is the Lorraine 155 as a reward tank, and I think also the German Sturmpanzer 2 are there. There are maybe some similar tanks that are also used as artillery tanks. I think some of the Russian 122 millimeter equipped or 152 millimeter equipped tank destroyers were used as close quarters artillery, so some sort of assault guns, and maybe that's also a hint how to play them. Packaged on Easy asks, do you think Gaijin will add rank 2 to 4 German light scout tanks? Well, I hope for that for years. At some point in the future, as again premium or reward tanks for sure. Hanf Peter asks, according to the or in response to the gameplay that I showed in last week's Duck Talks. Why do you use the HE shell from the 75mm on the E100? Isn't heat enough? Well, that's wrong. That is actually the HE shell for the 128mm. That also might help me to hull break SPA. That also gives me the option to switch between the AP and HE to reset the loader when the loader gets taken out while reloading. Then you have the long reload, but you can work around it by switching the shell types. And also maybe the splash damage is sometimes better to wreck tanks. At least that was the case in the past. Since then, again, the IS-3 and in particular the IS-4 have been reworked numerous times, so it doesn't work anymore with them. Very interesting question from Brit Bong. What do you think about the current RRB maps? I've been playing a lot of RRB as of late, and the maps frankly suck compared to the old ones. They've turned tank RB maps into RRB maps, don't know why. These maps all have the same layout of ground targets, heavy tanks pushing light pillboxes, copy and paste it into the center, which means yeah, if you go in with a ground attacker, everybody knows where you are and you have no way of hiding. Well, I absolutely agree with that. I think that was a very lazy attempt by Gaijin to actually answer the request for more RRB maps. And I think again the community made it possible for this introduction in a very lame way, because they did not really precisely clarify what they mean with new RRB maps. I think, for instance, if you look at Norway, that's a very, very diversitive map. You have obviously bombing points, you have carriers, destroyer groups, cruiser groups, central airfield with a dynamic gameplay, with U-boat bunkers. And while this does not fit every plane's need for certain ground targets, at least it's something different. It's an outstanding map, quite literally. And also the cold air benefits all sorts of engines from preventing them from overheat. And I think that is just very, very great map design for a change. And when you look at some of the new maps that are based on air or realistic tank maps, you're right, there is just, it's copy and paste how it plays out, and that's just disgusting as new map introductions after 5 years of development. And I think much easier things could have been done. A unique layout of the light pillboxes, more clusters of the tanks, and on some maps it's just frankly ridiculous how it plays out. And also you have no real place to go as a ground attacker. You only can hope that you just hover around on the side up until the battle in the middle is over, and you hope for one enemy to run away long enough for you to rack up the kills, then get killed, and then you win. And that is just really, really poor map design, really lazy and highly annoying, because I want to play my ground attackers as well. I want to see different maps. And when you look at also maps like Korea, they are great maps. And all those copy-paste maps that just play out in the very same way. They are just so boring. I want new, unique maps that are designed with love, courage, and just a sense of, I know how the game actually works. So that's just what I want to see. Then there is an interesting question from my Rooster. Do you think War Thunder will has more players? Every major update didn't bring more players to the game, or it just Gaijin making marketing problems? Well, I think it's a mixture of multiple aspects. First of all, now it's summer. A lot of people want to spend their time with their friends outside, swimming, grilling, whatever. The majority of people on the world are living on the northern hemisphere, so that's at least what I know or think to know. And so again, the majority of War Thunder players, if you think about America, Europe, and also the former Soviet Union republics, or countries, they are all, very interested War Thunder players, but not so much from Africa, I guess. I say not so much. So when I look at the analytics from my where my subscribers are coming from, it tells a very interesting but short story. So I think now it's summer. The player base isn't that big, but overall it is also a general trend that the game is very old. We haven't seen something truly revolutioning within War Thunder. A lot of the old problems stick, and that just drains a lot of people as well. So if Gaijin would put more emphasis on keeping people in the game, overall the player base would be much higher. Again, War Thunder was to be the absolute World of Tanks killer. It was the World of Warships killer, or is supposed to be, and I don't think it never really embraces this thing. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's two different games, but actually they're not. You're playing certain war machines from a third-person perspective, so you actually can compare them. Obviously, different game mechanics, different goals, but at the end, you want to grind, you want to get silver, you want to get experience, and you want to win the damn game in a random team. If that is not comparable, I ask you, what is? So yeah, I think helicopters will bring back people. Also, ships will obviously bring back people if they are polished and refined and work. The game has potential to attract 300, 400,000 people with ease, but again, I think Gaijin is thinking too small. Then there is an interesting question from my boy Scotty. Was your premium account subsidized, paid for by Gaijin? Love your content. Just surprised that you've always had a premium account, and what will Gaijin rarely responding well to criticism? It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to be assumed they gave you a premium account for the advertising content you make and have since decided that your honesty is not warranted. I'm sure I'm wrong, as they say assumption is the mother of all cock-ups. Well, first of all, my premium account was indirectly, partially paid for by Gaijin in the way that when always I got a premium package from a tank that I wanted to make a review on. I also got the Golden Eagles and also the premium time, and over dozens of such packages. Of course, it adds up. Also, I think I might gather enough Golden Eagles from my requests to then purchase a premium account myself. But directly it was not paid for, and I have to request for the stuff that I want to make a video about for Gaijin. So being part of the partnership program gives you extra things by default per month. With so and so many subscribers, you have the choice of getting so many premium vehicles and so many Golden Eagles, and you have to work with them. Also, I can ask for a special amount of Golden Eagles for crews, especially for the testing of ships, and I can request test drives and so forth. Or if there are a whole lot new of premium vehicles, I can ask for test drives on them. I can ask for them getting onto my account, and I think, to be honest, if you look at how much I criticized Gaijin, at how much I sometimes hated on decisions within Gaijin or from Gaijin, you have to ask yourself, well, why am I really still part of the Gaijin partnership program? Well, the matter of the fact is very simple. Any video that I do is still advertisement for the game, regardless of what I say. And the more I rant about a tank being overpowered, there is always a portion of my subscriber base that just says, shut up and take my money, Gaijin, I want to drive this overpowered vehicle. So that is one of the reasons why I want to go away from this overall direct opinion and stating more facts, being on the other side of a very popular but wrong opinion, like on the IS-7. it is a damn good tank, but it's not that extremely overpowered at all, or overpowered at all, if you compare it to the right opponents. Just from the perspective of the German tactic, it seems overpowered, and it being spammed out with its good capabilities, it looks overpowered. But if you then compare it again to the Sabias and to the M103, to then also tanks like the, well, out of all the tanks, the Conqueror, then suddenly the armor has a very different value, and the weak spots on this tank actually worked, unlike the bugged stuff on the IS-6 when it came out. So I thought I would give this out, and I think for all of the criticism that I threw in the direction of Gaijin, you still have to think why I'm still part of the Gaijin partnership program, why I do get more and more stuff, why can I request more and more, as long as I make videos about them. That's the only condition. If I request something, it's wanted to be seen that I make a video about it. How long the video is, when the video comes out, how many videos I make about it, and what the content of the videos is up to me. There is no signed, well, contract or anything like this, and I think it is a win-win situation for me and Gaijin. So no, Gaijin has not paid me directly for my premium account, but I think every sort of investment that Gaijin makes in my account is actually free for them, because they just have to switch a button. But for me, it's saving a lot of money. And if you look at the amount of premium planes and tanks that there are, and in the future also ships, one cannot really effectively pay for it. Look at the American tier 4 premiums and tier 5 premiums, how much they are worth it. If not given by Gaijin, to this day I would not earn the T-29 heavy tank, for an instance, because for me personally, I think the Super Hellcat is the deal. It is a fair premium tank, it's fun, it's fast, and it fits the meta if you know how to play it. Yet the T-29 is a bit more straightforward, and I think by itself it's also a good deal. But if you already have that one tank that works for you, why would you need a second premium tank? Except if you're a collector or a tryhard. So just think about it in that way. And I think this is actually a big thumbs up for Gaijin, that I still can request stuff from them, still make the videos, and they still keep me in the Gaijin partnership program. And they actually featured one of my tank reviews, the what was it, the Waffenträger. They actually advertised in the content creator weekly advertisement thingy. So yeah, that's a good thing. So Hans Fegelien asks, what is different between World of Warships and War Thunder whole Kriegsmarine thing? Well, I think it's the size of the ships, the research, the game mechanics, a lot of things, the map design, and overall also the satisfaction. I think there is nothing more satisfying than to punch big holes into an enemy ship and let it sink with this in mind. Then Sir Squeak asks, okay, what are your thoughts on the plethora of Panther variants? Other than the Panther 2, what Panther would you recommend at its BR for its role? Well, I think it just shows the involvement of the Panther with the various different turret designs and turret rotation speed, also a little bit with the ammunition, and it just brings diversity to the game, and it's just a rather cheap way for Gaijin to fill up the tech tree, if you're honest. And I think the Panther A is probably one of the best ones for its battle rating, but other than that, I think the Russian Premium, the TV, and also the Ersatz M10 are also pretty cool Panther variants. And the Panther 2, regardless of what you think about its historical accuracy, is a good tank. It's fun to drive at times. Then there is another comment from Sir Squeak, and it is, "Oh yes, rubs hand together. It's time to sit down with a beer. Napalm and chill intensifies." Ooh, that's a hot mixture. That's a comment that I didn't expect, so I hope I satisfied your inner need for, sitting down and having a few beers. Let me know how drunk you are after listening to me for nearly an hour. I think that's it for today. Again, please write the questions with the introduction of question double point and then use question marks to let them point out. I read all the comments, but this time it was much easier to figure out what the actual questions were. And I think all the questions that I didn't answer in the question segment, which took me like a long time, I think I answered in the previous mentioned parts of the video. So that's it for me today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. And we'll see each other on the battlefields, in the skies, and on the waves of War Thunder.